Hello and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video. My name is Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, and in today we're going to do the ultimate controller guide for Final Fantasy XIV. This is going to work whether you're on Xbox, PlayStation, or you prefer to play on PC. Now, this will also work with either controller, PlayStation 5 or an Xbox controller. I'm using an Xbox Series Elite 2, which gives me kind of the back paddles, which I use to my advantage. We'll talk about that actually in this video, but it's as simple as plug and play. I'm going to walk you through all the settings, what the buttons do, hopefully help get you more comfortable with using a controller. And the best news of all is I believe it just takes a little bit of time. There might be a little bit of discomfort because you know how to find things on a mouse and keyboard much faster, or if you've been a long time Final Fantasy XIV controller player like myself, maybe you'll pick up a new trick or two because they've made some big adjustments for Dawntrail. But before we dive into this guide, I want to take a little bit of time to thank you guys so much for supporting and subscribing to the channel, as well as your kind messages. I retired from Final Fantasy XIV over 20 months ago to focus in on my health and family, and it's been a good journey for me, losing over 70 pounds. Still got a little bit to go, but seeing these messages reminds me of why I both love making these videos, but also that I'm hopefully helping people out. Milfred says, I love these guides. Thank you so much for posting them. As someone who has a hand disability and is forced to use the controller to play, your videos make playing so much more enjoyable. Cloaked in Vision writes, I don't really plan on playing Picto, but I have always loved your guides, so I watch each and every one that you have put out and share them with my friends that play on controller. But as always, awesome work and keep it up. And I do appreciate you guys sharing out these videos. That really does help them out a lot. And also, I'm just glad you guys are getting so much out of them. So thank you for watching them, whether you want that job or not, as that is a real big help for the channel. And then Flanagan Hawaiian says, you got my sub. Can't wait to see Viper controller guide, which is currently being worked on. But now let's go ahead and spend some time and get you guys more familiar with the controller, the layout, what all the buttons do. And you can see here, I'm going to walk you guys through using an Xbox Series 2 controller, and I'm going to talk about how I use the back paddles for the left bumper and the right bumper. But let's go ahead and first and foremost dive in. Using your camera, you can hold down the left bumper and you can use the right stick to adjust your camera. Now we're going to talk about different camera modes later in the video, but as kind of a preview, you can go into character settings under control, and then under general, you can pick between standard and legacy type. If I just swap to standard type character based movement, you see if I press back, I'm going to walk backwards like I am on screen. Well, you know, moonwalking, if you will. And then it allows me to strafe left and right. If you prefer that, that is something that you can play around with. I personally like legacy type. This is going to be camera based movement where I run in 360 degrees, and you have a couple of options. You can maintain your camera distance. You can activate standard type fly and auto dive, which I have turned on, and I have turned off disable camera pivot. So you can play with that and see if you have a preference on any of those options. But now you can see here when I move the left stick, I run around in a 360 degree way, which I find way more comfortable. Anyway, so left bumper, zoom in, zoom out, pick a good and comfortable control type for your character when playing it. And then if you have any questions about that, just let me know. But let's walk through some more of the buttons. Your right bumper has some other functions as well. So first and foremost, left bumper is auto run. If I just press it without using the camera, you're going to see my character auto run here as well. Right bumper will tab between my different hotbars, and we'll cover the different hotbars and how you can manage this here later in the video. So just kind of keep that in mind. But you have up to 8 different hotbars. If you hold down right bumper, you can then use the face buttons to easily swap between all the different 8 hotbars that you have set up. Now, I use both the expanded and the W cross hotbar, or the W double cross hotbar as it's called, to be able to tab into these different options and use my skills accordingly. And we'll walk through all of that. I go over some of that in the different job guides specifically, but this will hopefully be a huge help to everybody out there. So we've covered left bumper, right bumper, left trigger, right trigger. You can see here it allows me to access my skills. If I have nothing selected, X, Y, B, and A, and I actually do a custom layout and you can always go into your system configuration and gamepad settings and button configuration to change it up. So you'll notice that I have open map and subcommand set to Y and jump cancel casting set to X. That is the only major difference that I've made to the face buttons, but I've also changed my R3 to execute macro 99, which I'll include in the pinned comment on this video, and that allows me to do a couple of different things. If I just back out, if I press down on the R3, now you can see here I've mounted up, which is really nice. Then if I press it again, I can unmount. If I'm out in the open world, or if I'm in a spot where I can summon mounts, if I jump and press it, then I'm going to sprint. But if you're in a dungeon where you can't summon a mount, it will automatically sprint. And the same thing goes for PvP. So this takes a skill off of my skill bar and just allows it and moves it to the R3 click. Now L3 click, in this case, you can see here I go into sheathed and unsheathed. When your weapons are drawn, you can have a different priority filter for the different enemies. So here I am sheathed, and I will tab between the different enemies by using the D-pad left and right. If there's other things out here to select, like NPCs, this would ignore that. Now if I put away the weapons, obviously there's only 2 things to really target, you can see here that I am cycling that. But that's also because I have another filter, and you can see here I'm using a custom filter. If we go into character configuration, and then under your filters section, you can see here I ignore party members, pets, minions, etc. when I am in custom. If I go ahead and just turn it all on and press apply, you can see here now I am cycling even more. Now the fun thing is that up and down also will cycle you and your party list, no matter how many people are in there. And that's one of the reasons why I don't have party targeting on the D-pad left and right. I keep it just as its default on the up and down. So if I go back into my character configuration, turn off party and pets and apply, now if I hit left and right, it's only going to then target the various different enemies. And right now there's only 1 enemy in range. Now we got 2. So you can see here a couple of different things. One thing is that I'm using hard targeting. So it picks the character, it picks the what I have targeted, and it has marked it with that symbol above its head. If I go ahead and press the A button at this point, I'm going to start engaging in auto targeting, and you see the spinning of the different that little symbol. That means I'm in auto attack mode, and if I ran up to him, I would start swinging. The other thing you can do when targeting an enemy, you can press the L3 and enter into a lock-on target mode. Now you can actually set your auto target option under your control settings, and under target, you can say automatically lock on target when initiating the auto attack. That's going to be a choice up to you. Find what works and is most comfortable for you, but do remember that you do have that option, which will then change obviously you into that standard mode. You can see here I'm backing away and then I'm strafing side to side. So if you need to use that, use it. It's going to be a huge help for you. So since we talked about hard targeting, I'm going to talk to you guys now about soft targeting. This is a setting in the control setting, and under target says switch target to circle to target to select. Meaning if I turn this off, this will then give me a target ring for the different options, but I am not yet physically hard locked it, and until I press A, that I'm locked on. This will also give me the ability to check out other options and other enemies. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit of combat here, and let's pull these guys in. That way we can kind of show you other targeting options. You can see here I can use the right bumper and left bumper with the triggers held down, or I can use the back paddle if I flop it over. There we go. Holding down the right trigger, left trigger. Then being that I have these on the right bumper, it allows me to target that. The other thing you could do is hold down left bumper, and you could press up and down while holding left bumper to do that soft target or hard target between enemies that are on your list. Now, when it comes to combat, you can see here I find it very comfortable to be able to target enemies, and that I think is a real critical component when playing this game. But you saw here that as I was pressing the face buttons or the D-pad buttons, those have changed whenever I'm holding down the left and the right trigger. Same thing goes with the double tap. That is essentially one of the most important things that I think I can teach you about playing this game when it comes to playing on a controller. Now, the other thing when it comes to targeting, you might find yourself in situations where you're actively participating in the story expansion, and thus you're going to come up on NPCs that are going to be surrounded by other players. Now, you can try to manually target the various different NPCs, or you can always just default press the A button to pick the closest target, which generally is going to be the NPC that you need. So it's very handy when you are targeting non-enemy combatants. Now, we've covered the D-pad, the right stick and left stick, the face buttons, the bumpers, but let's talk about your select and start. If I press the select button, you can see here, this will navigate me around the different options on the menu. So like say a duty pops, you can press select to be able to kind of pick on it. You can see here, I have now selected over into the quest log list where I can see the quests. I can click on the different options to go ahead and pull that up. And it see here that it pulls up my map for where this is located. If I'm on the map, I can press the right bumper to be able to enter into that selected map. I can also do the same thing for teleporting to the different aetherytes that are around the area. So if I was trying to quickly navigate, I can do so. Now on the map, I can obviously move up and down different layers, and you have different options over here on the right that you can get to via the D-pad up and down. But that is something I think incredibly useful, especially when you're trying to figure out where to go. You can see here what quest you're working on. You can just pull up the quest completely and then click on map, but that's obviously an additional step. It depends on ultimately what you're looking for. You can also see here as a part of the main scenario quest, you can click on where this is, and this is going to highlight that. Same thing goes with the job quest that you're currently on. So if you're wanting to keep track of that, pay attention to that UI. The other thing you can see here is it lets me tab into the keyboard section, where in this case I have a little keyboard, so I can be like howdy and type that in. Or you can use an actual keyboard and mouse or whatnot. If you want to change your different filters, you can actually then just press left and get into where you have the different chat modes to kind of talk and experiment with that. You can also then jump down in here into your various different chat lock settings and more. So there isn't anything you can't get to when playing it. And you don't need to do anything fancy like have a mouse and keyboard to enjoy this game. Pressing the start button, this will actively bring up the menu, which will get you to any of the different sub menus that you need that you don't have anything that is listed on your hotbars. But also you can see here, I've got some UI elements that I can access via the select button to highlight these different things. And I just realized my quest log is actually being covered up by the camera here. Let me go ahead and change that. You can go into your HUD layout, and then you can go and turn on and off any different feature. And so with that selected, I'm going to go and drag this down in my UI a little bit so we can see that a little bit more clear. And then from here, you can see again, I'm selecting the different things by using the up and down options as well. So please note, I apologize for blocking that earlier. I didn't think about it. All right, so now let's go ahead and we talked about start to getting into these different things. Let's talk about the virtual mouse. Holding down the left bumper and pressing the R3 will enter into virtual mouse mode. You can see here, this now takes my left and right trigger and turns them into a left and right click. This way, if I for some reason wanted to switch over to Viper, I don't want to press right trigger because that will be the right click. I want to press left trigger for the left click, and therefore you can see here I can easily swap out my different hotbars. Now it's easy to bring these up, like if I go in my character and then under my gear set list, this is where you would essentially want to, you can drag this down. You can drag it down to any hotbar that you want if you want to solely use it with the controller. It's not as convenient as a keyboard and mouse would be, but it is still valuable that you have those options as well. And then you can exit virtual mouse mode by pressing and holding down the left bumper and then pressing the R3 as a click, and then everything will return back to camera control based without having to worry of that floating mouse cursor. All right, so now let's go ahead and dive deeper into the system configuration and controller configuration settings. Now, from the gamepad settings, you can see here I've got it enabled, and I'm currently using the Xbox One and Windows or Series X controller as well. If you have other controllers plugged in, this is how you're going to set your device. So if I actually had the PlayStation controller plugged in at this moment, then it would give me two different options. From a gamepad type, if you are wanting to use a PlayStation controller and you want those symbols, or if you want to swap it out for any reason, you have these different options to choose from, and this will update the various different buttons that display when you're using those. The other things you have options for is keep GamePad enabled when client is inactive. I recommend this, especially if you're on PC. Enable vibration. I prefer this. Enable auto run, which is that left bumper in the movement. I would make sure that this is turned on. Enable window zoom via pressing the R3 click, which will adjust your camera and will even take you into first person mode if you let it. You can also enable text passing with left bumper and right bumper, but I don't bother with that. I have the virtual mouse enabled. This is something I was highlighting earlier, but you can turn that off in case it's giving you any trouble. And you can also enable DualSense and DualShock for functionality if you so choose. Now, you can calibrate your controller, but under button configuration is where you can also make other different changes, and we've highlighted this earlier in the video. So there isn't much else to cover when it comes to your controller configuration under system. Everything else then lives within the with the character configuration. You can see here we already covered the various different movement settings. Same thing kind of applies for takeoff. You can also enable direct chat. What this does, that means is if you start typing, it's going to treat it like chat as opposed to opening up different windows on the screen. Like you want to pull up your settings with K, for example, or whatever K ends up pulling up. You can see here I'm a filthy inverted right sticker, and that's just how it's always going to be. And then we've covered a little bit under the target. Automatically lock on target when initiating auto attack. I have that turned off. Automatically face target. Disable targeting of pets and minions when in battle, which I think is really critical. Switch target circle depending on if you want hard targeting or soft targeting. You can also see here they added this in recently as a part of Endwalker auto target settings. Auto target according to priority, whether it's closest ranged or line of sight, and enable full auto target, which is very nice because you have skills that require a target. And what this does is that instead of you killing an enemy and then trying to use the skill and not having a target selected, this will select one for you. So I highly recommend turning those on. Ground targeting, you have a couple different options. Some skills are ground targeting skills, especially with like Beast Tribe or Tribal quests. You can have it locked to your cursor, so wherever your cursor is, that is where it will be. But if you have it unlocked, that means you can change your ground targeting by holding down the right bumper and using the left stick to reposition it. And that's one of the things that I recommend highly. You also have various different display options here, as well as filter settings when you want to use those. But I think the better option is to go into your filters and truly customize this out. Now, we covered the difference between sheathed and unsheathed. Those are the two default settings, but you can enable further settings by enabling customization. This will allow you to hold down left bumper and the face buttons to change your filter. So if you want just enemies, if you want everything, if you want just your friends, or if you want just alliance members, you can do so. So if I want to apply these settings that I have changed for the targeting itself, and then if I want to hold down the right bumper, nope, actually it's left bumper. There we go. Oh, I got a little confused. Left bumper and pressing A, you can see here I'm in that custom. If I press B, I'm in enemies. If I press Y, I'm in all. And if I press X, I'm in friends. If I sheathe and unsheathe my weapons, you can see here it goes right back to normal. Back into character configuration. I highly recommend having at least your enemies on, but this will limit you, like especially if your weapons are out to target alliance members, so you want to give yourself at least an option to be able to get into alliance members when necessary. Then we're going to go into hotbar settings. You can see here I have display hotbar numbers turned off. That is just a UI personal preference. I also have enable the hotbar cycling button, include a pet hotbar when cycling, enable drag and drop when repositioning, hide unassigned slots. This is another really good one. You can see here if I have this turned off, then you see all these little gray floating boxes that they're helpful when you're laying out your UI, but I would highly encourage you to turn those on and off. And then you have a couple other things: automatically replace hotbar 1 with pet hotbar when mounted, and replace hotbar when fashion accessory is equipped. Under sharing, this is where when you change jobs, classes, etc. in this game, if it is not checked, that means it is going to be exclusive to that class or job that you have picked. Over here on the, when it is checked, that means these are shared. So my hotbar 6 through 10 are all shared. My hotbar on the control cross hotbar is 7 and 8 are the only ones that are shared. Everything else is going to be job specific. Under the cross, you have enable the cross hotbar, always display cross hotbar. You can turn this on and off to kind of make things a little bit cleaner on your UI, and they only pop in when you're wanting, so you can do that. You can turn on display hotbar help, which actually requires me to hit apply. This will show the name of the skills when you're hovering, and I personally enjoy it where it is not being displayed, and that is just my personal preference. You do what works better for you. You can also say use pet hotbar for mount actions and fasten accessories and automatically replace the cross hotbar with the pet hotbar. Enable edit mode is important to display control guide, and enable duty action input. I would keep all of these checked. Now, if you have some hand dexterity issues, you can play around with toggle and mixed. You will lose out on the expanded cross hotbar, which is different by holding down the left trigger and the right trigger, and then the right trigger and the left trigger. But I use hold. That means you hold it down, and when you release it, it is inactive. Toggle will mean that you have the ability to press it and it will stay active, and then you can use those skills and it will not turn off until you press it again. Now, what happens under your character configuration and then under mixed, it's a blend of both. You can hold it and release it, or you can just press it to toggle. But you might run into some issues, so just note that not all features are available under the hold and mixed mode. You can or the toggle in the mixed mode. Hold is the default that I would recommend. And I keep closing down this window. You can see here I can close out of windows with B. Breaking news. I have it where I have cross hotbar display type, D-pad, and action buttons. You can have it with D-pad and D-pad and action buttons and action buttons. Then we have always display W cross hotbar and return to the cross hotbar after W cross hotbar input. You can also position your W cross hotbar separately. And if you're having trouble double tapping into the W cross hotbar, just note that you can adjust the input timer to make changes to that. Now, I personally keep the W cross hotbar after input, so if I select an action, it then automatically returns me to the standard cross hotbar for my rotations. But if you want to stay in this section, maybe for a specific rotation, you can have it return only when it's locked. So if I turn this off and hit apply, you can see here I'm in here, and if I press an action, I'm still in here as long as I hold down the right trigger, and I don't get back here until I press release and press it again. Under custom is where you set which of your hotbars display with which button presses. So enable the expanded controls with left trigger and then right trigger. You can see here, and that is linked to my hotbar 2 left and my hotbar 2 right. And for my W cross hotbar, that is linked to my 3 left and 3 right hotbar. So if you want to ever see kind of what that looks like, if I back out here on purpose, and if I go to 3, you see it lines up perfectly. If I go to 2, you can see here it aligns up perfectly with the different options that I have listed there. You can enable auto hotbar switching when drawing and sheathing your weapons if necessary. I have that turned off. Enable customization for when weapons are sheathed. This is where you can see here with pressing the right bumper gets me to hotbar 1, 7, and 8. And when my weapons are drawn, it will only keep me locked to hotbar number 1. To highlight that for you guys right here. So weapons are out. If I press right bumper, you can see here it's not tabbing. If I put my weapons away, and then I can tab through those different options. Then finally, if we get down into it, you can enable different settings and different control layouts for PvP, but they've made a lot of changes to PvP with its own actions and so much more that I haven't found this to be of any need. This was something bigger of importance before Endwalker, but it's still an option for you guys to play around with if you desire to do so. Setting your actions on these hotbars are also pretty straightforward and simple. If you go into your actions and your traits, you can see here I've got some role settings. I got my main actions. You can sit here and you can press in this case, the default would be the X or square button, but I have it switched to the Y for the submenu. You can press that and it will have you go ahead and want to assign that skill. And so you hold down the left or the right trigger and you press the button that will correspond with that skill going in. If you said, oops, I misplaced that, let me go ahead. I can hold down the left trigger or the right trigger and press the select button. And you can see here now I'm in edit hotbar mode. I can pick the skill and then I can say, hey, move it over here to the left D-pad. It's that straightforward and simple. If I said, oops, I didn't really mean to add that skill, I can press it twice and then I can confirm deleting it. Pressing the select or the V button will take you out of that as well. You can of course go into virtual mouse mode and drag and drop these skills if you choose to desire. And one of the greatest things that they added in to the game recently is you can now also drag and drop skills to the W cross hotbar as well. And to kind of highlight that, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I click on Serpent's Tail, and then I can just drag it onto the slot and it stays, which this is awesome. I'm so excited they added that because it was always the #1 question that I would get on these videos. Now we've talked about skill setting. We've talked about pretty much everything that I think that you need to really dive deep into the world of controller play in Final Fantasy XIV. If there's anything that I can do, or if there's any questions that you have, sound off in the comments, jump into the Discord. I'm really happy to help out in any which way. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to the channel members for supporting the content directly. Thank you so much for those of you who've hit the like button and have subscribed. If you have officially subscribed to the channel because of this video, sound off in the comments. I'd love to welcome you to the content. We cover MMORPGs here, so I'd love it if you stick around, and I'm really curious as to what you're playing, as there's a lot coming out, especially this year alone. Anyway, guys, for Ginger Prime Loves MMOs, my name's Ben and is Brian. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care.